All right. For whatever reason, Jim, you're all darkened out in your face.
I can't. There's not much I can do about it. There's no light right here.
I know.
I can be all the way over here.
Oh, I love that shot. That was much better.
Let's see.
In any event, we're on Charlie's Corner, and there you go. And guest is Jim Rossman from ID Promotions. And Jim's shop is where I do a lot of my testing and get all my screens made and uh, really spend more time going to lunch than anything else, I think, but that's okay. It's always good. Um, in any event, Jim, good to have you on.
Thank you for having me, Charlie.
So,
I always appreciate you being here. So,
well, it's always fun to be there. Actually, it's a great shot that you have there with Vastex in the background, your MHM on the side. So part of what I wanted to chat with you about, and we can go into um, as deep as you want, but part of what I was looking at is the jump from manual to an automatic and really what triggered it and what considerations did you have in doing that?
well, to start with is just having the manual for well, I've been open now for 10 years, so having the manual is I only thing I could get in my basement. And then just over the years, just trying to find something to keep pace with the jobs I have coming in during the busy season and such like that. And as we've grown, when the busy season comes, the hours got really long, and it was just one of those pushes where the last 2 years it was a push in 2023 was we had to move forward on something. It was the need, something that would be a labor force multiplier, where we could get more product out the door, and then it was all there. And pretty much that was the main decision, is just trying to help speed up the process on getting product out the door when we have our beginning of our busy season, which pretty much just started. And just making sure we're able to get the product out for my customers, and that's where I'm at.
All
So,
right. So you want to talk a little bit about the trials that you went through on trying to get your equipment in and your issues with the electrical company, et cetera.
oh,
I mean, you ordered
only an
back,
hour
you ordered your equipment back in January and
of
you finally
24
got it. Huh?
of 24.
Yeah, January of 24, correct. It seems distant. And it came in finally when in September or
We
October?
finally got the electrical was finalized from Excel Energy. Finally got their power pole and everything brought in here. They finally got done it's right at the beginning of September. So the
Yeah.
equipment didn't start getting here, for all the press and stuff started getting here like second and third week of September. So really, I didn't get up until the end of September, early October, before I had the equipment
So it
set.
only took about 9 months between ordering and actually getting it in due to the electrical company not putting in the juice when they were supposed to.
Correct. At SPSI and Tom, they and everybody that was involved with it, they were great, because they understood. We were told 6 to 12 weeks, and that was on February 28th, and like I said, it ended in September when they got it done. So, but they were very patient with it. They had the equipment here in town, or not in town, but here in stateside, and as soon as we pulled the trigger, everything started showing up within the weeks, the week following.
Yeah,
So it was really nice. That's one thing I do appreciate on
I remember
SPSI
that.
helping.
So, yeah. So what's it like having a quote unquote a new automatic?
A new automatic. I don't know what it'd be like to have an old automatic, but this has been absolutely fantastic. Sarah and Sarah, one of my employees here, she does graphic design and helps me print. She and I went through that job last week. It was probably the fastest job we've done, and we cranked out uh, 300 pieces, but it was front and back, and we got that in just under 2.5 hours between switching out screens, ink, and everything else. was quite amazing for us to be able to get that out, and it was eye-opening. You know, truly starting to fall in love with the opportunities that this provides, being able to register like the job we'll be doing, that I think it's a 7-color print we're going to be doing. Being able to register that is so easy compared to the manual. The manual is tricky because you add too much torque on one of the handles or whatever, and you can actually twist the frames. It's been it's eye-opening, the difference. Makes me wonder why shouldn't have gone to an automatic earlier, maybe a smaller one to start.
Yeah, but I don't think a small, I have my own issues about smaller ones. I mean, I think for certain situations, they make sense. When you're in a garage operation and you don't have the space to fit in anything bigger. Excuse me. Anyway, if you don't have the space to fit in something bigger, then you go with whatever will fit. In your case, you were able to actually go to a size that to me makes a lot of sense, which is a 10-color 12 station. Yeah. And to me, that allows for a couple of flashes. It allows for being able to roll your print, etc. So I think, size-wise, what you did was the right size to go with.
Hardest thing that I've had on that has been, being a manual shop for so long, it's getting some of these smaller jobs that we've had in the past where, it's 40 pieces. I would go, oh, we'll just jump on the manual, crank that out. It'll take an hour or whatever it'll take. It's trying to break from that because you can do it so much more efficiently on the automatic. And now after this last week is just seeing that we're able to do what we can do even on these small, easy jobs where maybe we're only doing 20 or 30 pieces at a time, but we can get it on press, get it in, get it out, get on to the next job. Where on the manual, you add that extra time on doing all the manual setups and everything and without the easy dial-ups. So that's one thing. I do have the manual still, just playing second fiddle now anymore. It's more for sampling is where I'm going on those.
Yeah, I think you always have to have a manual, even if it's just for fill-in work or for doing sleeves or something where you don't want to use the automatic.
Correct. And as we spoke about in the past, what I'd love to do is on my my Hopkins is to be able to, or the BWM is to be able to create a bracket that I can mount on there, maybe have somebody engineer something where I can actually use my MHM frames and be able to use that for setting up my manual jobs, just so I don't have to have 2 different kinds of screens, but also open up the opportunity where I can do wider prints on single jobs.
Yeah. Richard, you're joining us. How nice. Good
Afternoon.
to see you.
Morning
Good.
for you guys.
How are you doing?
I'm fine.
How's the weather up in Michigan? I understand you guys have some chills coming across your.
Well, 2 weeks ago, we had an ice storm in upper Michigan, which is, of course, 400 miles from where I live. Otherwise, yesterday it was 72. Today, the top temperature will be 48.
Yep.
So bouncing around.
We had just the opposite.
It's getting there. It's April. The
Yeah,
magnolia blossoms, and then it's 23 degrees.
Well, welcome to Michigan. I mean, I spent 2 years there, so I'm quite familiar with the temperature situation there. Of course, I was on the other side.
Where were you in Michigan? What did you do?
Well, I graduated Western Michigan in Kalamazoo.
Oh, okay.
I was there, of course, it was a little while ago, back in the 60s, but
oh, okay.
What the hell?
In a minute.
But, I was on the other side of Michigan where we definitely caught the lake effect very heavily.
And I, of course, was on the other side of Lake
Yep.
Michigan in Wisconsin.
Well, anyway,
Okay,
Jim
now
is
we have
with
Old
us.
Home Week. Now the Old Home Week is over. The
Anyway,
OG Club.
Jim is with us. Jim is where Jim's shop is the one that I use to do all my screen making and my testing and like I said, a lot of lunches more than anything else, which is always
Yeah.
a good thing.
Yeah, well, we worked through a lot of things for me. So always, as I'm growing, you've helped me tremendously. And Richard, what do you do? What do you
I'm a
have?
screen printer since 1979.
Okay.
So I retired when I had a stroke.
Okay.
In 2009, I was the product manager for Yolano in New York City. And when I didn't show up for work for 9 months, Alfred said, Richard, I got nothing for you when I came back. They did not touch my office or anything, but oh well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I miss
Water
New
under the
York.
bridge.
I miss being in the mix, but that was 16 years ago. So I still keep
Wow.
plenty busy, even as far away as Asia. You know, I've had 3 trips to Asia in the late 2017, 2019 area. I forget, 5 years ago. Those are my coolest trips I've had.
So do you do any consulting or anything like that for
That
printing?
absolutely
Perfect.
that's what I'm doing, and it's what I did before I started to work at Yolano. I said Yolano Lawson Screen Products in 2000 because Mark Kudre said, Richard, you're going all over the world. What happens when you break your leg? And the Landisman brothers said, Richard, come and run our product department. And I went, okay. And I moved to St. Louis, gave up the road. But
Okay.
then I went to Lano because it was New York City, finally.
It was Brooklyn, which is even
Brooklyn, right,
better.
right. Close enough. I could see it across the bridge.
Ilano was probably, less than 30 minutes from where my shop was in Brooklyn. They were in a better neighborhood.
Right. So I was in, oh, now I'm forgetting, but I was at corner of Myrtle and the road that runs into the bridge, the big one. See what 15 years does? I can't remember where I lived. Fort Greene, Fort Greene, Fort Greene.
Hello.
So excellent. No, I still consider myself blessed. Charlie, since day one when I met him, was in Las Vegas when we had first met. I went to the ISS show in Vegas. And it just happened to be Charlie sitting there doing the introductions to everybody, doing the meet and greets, and asked where I was at. And I was like, well, I live in Colorado. And, Charlie being Charlie, he's like, where in Colorado? And so I was like, Littleton. And he's like,
good.
all right,
I'll be over tomorrow.
I'm in Centennial. And we hit it off from there. And Charlie's been there since, since 2014. I bought my equipment through Charlie and have had to lean on him ever since, trying to help on figuring out troubleshooting and problems I'm having, as I've been growing as a business, from all the manual issues I've had and the different inks that I've been using, whether it's silicone, discharges or whatever it happened to be. Then especially now going to the automatics and trying to kind of unlearn the processes of going from a manual to an automatic, because my thought is, on a manual, you can push harder and get the ink out of the screen. On the automatic, it doesn't work that way.
Remember, I have Newman's tattooed on my butt practically. So,
Yeah.
I think there's better ways to do it than that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Well, I mean,
of course, Charlie invented the smash technique of blending colors on a dark, but that was an art function. You got to be able to do your own art, create your own art to do that kind of cool stuff.
I think all the cool stuff was back in the 70s and all, but 70s, early 80s.
The growth go-go years.
Yeah, those were the inventive years. I think they were anyway.
Oh, me too.
Of course, most people today don't remember any of that because they're not our age. So
they wish.
But that's why my book is almost done. I'm waiting for Dane to work on the cover and get it out the door. We'll see what that does, if anything.
So, no, I'm just trying to see right now, Charlie, trying to do this silicone print. It's going to be one of those ones I'm going to have to back that pressure all the way off and go back to what we were doing previous, because we just want it where it just skims the top, so just laying down, correct? Since it's so smooth without having the pressure we've had to do for the discharge and all that.
Yeah, well, for discharge, you definitely need the pressure because you want to go through the shirt, or partially through the shirt. For all your other stuff, you want to sit on top of the shirt.
Now, do we want to use with the silicone? Should we be using the harder squeegees on this then? Doing like the 72?
I'm still a softer squeegee type of guy, soft to medium. So um, I don't find that much use for a hard squeegee on textiles for the most part, but that's me.
Okay.
Richard, what's your thought on all that?
Well, the softer squeegee means that you're going to put more lip angle. And so maybe you set your press at 15 degrees, but that's not what the angle is going to be when you're actually printing, because the lip is going to be, the edge is going to be at 30 to 40 degrees. So more pressure changes the angle. And so in many, many, many ways, naturally, I don't have my prompts here, but imagine a roll of tape.
Yep.
Not very good, but now I'm going to fill that up with black ink.
Yep.
Now
Okay.
I want you to press down on that as hard as you can and make that ink come out. Come on.
Correct.
Jim, press on here.
Yep.
Oh no, here. Get Charlie to press on your shoulder. Wait. Here, stand up and press down. No, drive your truck over the screen. Little Jennifer can make the ink come out of that screen by lifting it up. That's what takes the ink out of the screen. So when you drive more ink, the V of the bend, where's my other stick here? So when you get that one's not bending. I need a plastic one. Naturally, no plastic one. So if you've got a blade that's going like this, okay, you're going to smash more ink because there's ink that's just going to be smashed in that last little bit. So if that's what you need to do to get the discharge to penetrate, because you need that to go all the way to the inside. And instead of, if you use a more liquid ink or something to help it flow better, and of course, the best way to make anything flow better in a screen printing ink is to stroke it faster.
Okay.
So when you're doing it, before you go to, do an experiment for me, crank the speed up, double the speed of the stroke.
Okay.
Now, if the ink gets very wet, it might get splatters. And so then you'll blame me because I told you to do it. But the idea is that the ink has temporary bonds. And when you move it, like my brother Kevin, who you don't know, but if he's sitting, he'll be there until you say, Kevin, move. So the ink will not flow until you stir it, until you move it, until you heat it. Heating helps it to move, but you've got to break the temporary bonds, which is designed to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you want to flow through the mesh and then stop and create a hockey puck of black ink or whatever color. So when you leave the ink film with your mesh, it leaves the deposit. Because once it's there, you want it to just stay. You don't want it to be wet, otherwise we'd be able to print with water. And what would happen there? If you turn a glass upside, my glass is full, so I'm not doing that. You turn the glass upside down and lift it up, what happens? The ink's going all over. And that's not control. So you want temporary flow, which you're not going to get from silicone.
All right.
Because it's got other properties. It means we have to muscle. So all the rules are different for silicone.
Okay. So, but the one that, like on the manual, when I was pushing the manual, it always seems like I had to totally dial off doing anything as far as pressure and what with the sharper squeegee on trying to clear the screens. Is that an emulsion? Is that because of the emulsion I have down, or is it just because it seemed like I had to go with the harder squeegee to get a good clean? Otherwise, we ended up getting a lot of I don't know what you want to call it, like spatter or not spatter, but like a ring around the halo around the print.
Well, if you're getting a ring around the print, that means it's squirting out at the bottom and you've lost control because you have one thickness worth of ink, but you're squirting like 1.25, an extra 25%. And it's got to go somewhere, and it's not in control, under the control of your stencil anymore.
Okay.
But let me just ask you, and here's oh, thanks, Richard. When I see you at the show, I'm gonna punch you. Does the ink know whether you're printing it manually or automatically?
No, not at all.
Then,
So this is
then I would like you to think about that, because you still have to print it exactly the same way. Somehow you're doing it differently manually than you're going to do it with the MHM.
perfect.
So tell me again that using a hard blade, typically a hard blade, let's say you have something like white ink, sticky, gooey white ink, and you need to move it along. And so the real problem there is that when it hits the snowplow effect, of when you hit the white ink, you don't want to hydroplane. You don't want the blade to lift up. And with a soft blade, if it's flexible enough, it'll vibrate a little bit at the tail. If you're not coming, so you have no pressure, you come down, stroke, 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 and it leaves a white film on the inside, you know you don't have enough down pressure. But if the more pressure means that the blade can't stand up to the white ink, the blade goes, okay. The bully of the white ink needs to be told who's the boss, and that's the blade.
Okay.
So I want you to do a favor for me. Have you got a small print you're going to do in the next week?
I do.
I want you to print it with a putty knife. What?
I'll try
I
anything.
want
You
you
have no
to
idea.
use
I
a
love
putty
this
knife.
stuff.
Go to the dollar store and get one of those $1 plastic putty knives if you're afraid. But until you turn it on its edge and scrape it, you're not going to wreck the screen. Or you could grind down the edge if you're worried. But just use a plastic putty knife. But use something that doesn't bend at all. Print with your flood bar. Now that's got a rounded lip, so that gives you a different kind of effect there also. A sharp edge and a rounded edge give you a completely different deposit. And now, all those variables, which one will I use? So a hard, sharp squeegee means the squeegee's not contributing to the troubles. And you can identify, is it the stencil? Is it not thick enough? Is it too thick? Am I getting the fine lines I expect? And are you getting that halo around the outside?
Yep.
Charlie?
Sorry, I missed a bunch of that. Today is tax
You can
day.
listen to it. You can listen to it later.
My
You
accountant
can
just
tell
called
when I
me.
go into my speech.
My accountant just called me. I needed to jump on something, and today is the last day of taxes. So,
Good question, Jim. It
Yeah.
solved problems for Charlie.
So what's that? I'm sorry.
It was a good question. It solved the
Yeah,
problem
correct.
for Charlie. You have to talk to the boss.
So okay, off subject on this change of it. What is your preferred method when you're explaining and teaching as far as putting an emulsion? Because like Charlie and I go through some of the jobs we go through, I'll do a single coat, like on a 230. I'll do a single coat instead of a 1-on-1, not one, just one on the outside, one on the shirt side. Not a 1-on-1 when we're doing emulsion. Where do you stand on your thought processes on putting emulsion on screens? What do you usually what's your go-to? Is it a 1-on-1 or is it how do you go?
Every mush is different. Every coder is different. So you've got to decide part of that. I'm looking for a picture to share with here. Oh, come on, get over it, kids. Number one would be when you're coding, do you start on the bottom or do you start on the inside of the screen?
Down on the bottom.
Okay, so I want you to code until the inside of the screen shines. It's glossy. That means that the emulsion's gone through the holes and it's gathered up around the threads and you have a film on the inside. Now you have a minimum, because one of the problems with direct emulsion is that when it dries, it shrinks and takes on the texture of the mesh. So no matter how much you coat it, until you get that film, at least on both sides, When it shrinks, it's going to be less than that. So that's your minimum amount. Second of all, which lip of your coater? Do you have a coater with two lips? Or do
Oh
you
yeah,
have a
I always
single
use a
coater?
round.
Okay, that's good because you will get much better penetration through the mesh. But I'm going to quick share. Oh, sorry. Charlie hasn't done allow me to do that, but I know he hates Zoom and will,
What, I'm listening. I,
no,
I,
no, no,
I
no.
do have something to say when you're done, though.
No, but I can't share my screen, the picture, because you've forbidden it.
I
But
don't care. You can.
no, when I click on the share screen, host a disabled participant screen sharing. Okay. I say, no, not okay. So I told Charlie, and he says, yeah, but it's Zoom. I don't do Zoom. I can start my car, I can set the car, but I can't do donuts. So imagine a screen that, I have smaller coders. So the picture I have has a smaller coder. So I hate seeing you do it with a complete, 50 cents worth of emulsion coating an entire screen. But you start at the bottom, you make one stroke all the way to the top. Then you go 1/5 or 4/5 of the way to the top. Then 3/5, then 2/5. And now you have 5 different thicknesses. So for you should spend the money, Jim, and make a couple of screens like that in every mesh count.
Okay.
And you're going to do that job, and you got some detail, whichever one you're worried about. You use the Greaves screen for setup. And you print a couple of test shirts, and what you'll get is 5 different examples. And you go, oh, I like the 4th step or the 2nd step. Now, the problem with this is that you got to expose for the thickest bit of emulsion, and maybe you'll get some undercutting or some light scatter. But that's not what you're really going for. You're getting, you're seeing the deposit. Now, another thing is that you should print that print on a piece of paper. So if the image is larger than an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, somewhere you can get some, you go to the art store and get some foolscap, some sketching paper or something like that. You're always looking around. For testing of white ink, for instance, I always use newspaper, which nobody has around anymore. But the newspaper with black ink on it, you'd print on it and say, oh, this print won't even cover up the type because it's too thin a deposit. It's not going to stop black or blue from coming through, black or green or red shirt color from coming through the white deposit. And that's a perfectly smooth, printed on a hard platen, printed on a sheet of paper. Can't get any better than that.
Okay. So go ahead, Charlie. You were going to say something.
No, I was going to say, everybody has their own song and dance about EOM and, how important is it really for textile printing. So Kaza wrote an interesting article because he only surface coats his screens. Single swipe, he's done. And certainly the less emulsion you put down, the more detail you're going to hold because you don't have to go through as thick a stencil as you would if you multi-coat. And then the question is, how long will that stencil last? And obviously that's something that you have to make some determinations on. And are you getting enough deposit or not, depending on the color of the garment, depending on the ink that you're using. But, Kaza is a very interesting guy because trying to have a discussion with him or going counter to his feelings is always a interesting situation. and difficult to get him to see things other than the way he always does.
Excellent. So no, like I said, and then our next step, Charlie, when we're working on is I've got that the Alano, what are we using? The red. So because I've got to be able to slow down that exposure time so we can have a little more control on the print.
Well, I think
3 seconds on a 230 is not enough because at 2 seconds I start losing my.
Well, I agree.
I think wet.
You definitely need to get. We need to get it up to like the 10-second range or whatever. 3 seconds is it always sounds good. It's really not, because 2 seconds you're under, 4 seconds you're over, and then you don't know about anything in between.
Correct. And see, that's another thing too, is then if I have to sit there and keep doing that, where I've got to add more emulsion so we can, slow down the process a little bit just to have a heavier gas go, we're going to start, changing everything again. So that's where I'm trying to find that sweet spot.
Obviously, the biggest thing is adding more emulsion is fine as long as you're not giving away the detail that you're looking to hold.
Correct. There we go.
Using
You like
positive
using the
or
21-step gray scales, Richard?
yes, or Stouffer.
Yeah, the Stouffer scales. I've never been a big fan of them.
Why
But
don't you like them?
I always find them to be a little bit difficult to read at times. Trying to get that solid 7 has always been a interesting thing. I guess some of it has to do with the pressure in which you're using to wash out.
But if you're not getting a solid step 7, that's telling you may
You're
not have
either
exposed
under
to
or
all that.
over. No, I understand exactly how it works. I mean, I've used them for years anyway, but I'm still a bigger fan of doing a step wedge test.
Trouble is you can't do that on every screen. And if you got employees, like I'm guessing Jim doesn't, because it's quiet in his shop right now.
They're
So
being very nice. They're working on artwork right now and embroidering.
so as an employer,
Yep.
if there's a screen that fails, I'm immediately going to look at the 21-step grayscale that's burned into every screen in the department. And then when I see that it isn't a solid step 7, and I go, Bill, what you've now lost us hours, minutes at $6 a minute.
So that's not the same thing that I can get on my step wedge going through the processes we have from going from 3% to the 100% that as we're going through those steps on my side. I guess I don't see what the difference is on what we're trying to look for on that, where I have that, that locked in as well, or if we're losing our image, 3% obviously is not what I'm trying to hold. Most of the stuff we're doing is
So
like
that's easy.
me.
What you're going to do is you're going to make a compromise. What's your longest run?
About 150 pieces.
Okay, so 150 pieces. If the screens don't break down, you don't really care about durability. You may have a problem because the stencil is under cured, it's underexposed, it's not completely cross-linked, and that means it will be harder to reclaim.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So, because what you've done is you've washed away part of the molecular partnership that's there, and you've left only the polyvinyl acetate, just like an acetate glue or an acetate bumper sticker. It will stick to the mesh because you washed away all the polyvinyl alcohol, mixes well with water. Now there's fancy science terms that I just rattled off, but what you do is imagine you've got a chocolate covered caramel sticky. The chocolate part on the outside is what allows it to flow and link together when the cross link happens. It's all science, but you can call me another time and say, I didn't understand a thing you were saying. But the idea is that if it didn't get cross-linked, that means the chocolate is exposed and will rinse and go away with water. And so you've left the adhesive part. Stencil's still good, but now when you want Mr. Stencil Remover to come in and wipe it right out, no, because the caramel part, it decided to stay with the mesh. It likes her. So that didn't, but you've got durability or you got the image. Now, part of the problem is undercutting and light scatter. So what kind of a lamp are you using? Exposure lamp.
LED.
Okay, so LED is diffused. Every one of the little LEDs is a 120-degree reflector. Maybe it's different in whatever you're using, but it's clearly a reflector that spreads out the light like it's supposed to. So what you don't want is a grenade explosion of light, just like from a single bulb that goes in all directions, because the lights over there are going across and striking the stencil at an angle that undercuts. That's what's giving you your problem. So if you want durability, you need to work with your art to compensate for the fact that you're going to expose for longer, and longer will undercut and choke your image. So you build the image bigger. It goes in at 200 pounds, it comes out at 150. Wouldn't we like to be able to do that in 3 minutes?
I don't even want to talk about that right now.
Okay, me either. Me either.
What you got, Charlie?
What's the trouble you're having? If you're doing discharge, you got to be wary, because that's a little more wicked than a plastisol or even silicone.
Correct. And that's, I'm always going to be a learning person. I'm always going to learn, because there's always something more I can do. So this is one of those. I love having Charlie and, the advice coming from all directions, John McGee and everybody, just trying to figure out.
You're lucky in that neighborhood.
So I will always learn, trying to do these, because what I was doing 10 years ago or 11 years ago in my basement is nothing what I can accomplish now, but it's only because of the trials, errors, and education.
You don't learn from success, you only learn from mistakes.
Always. So, you all right there, Charlie?
Yeah, I'm just not focused at the moment. Sorry about that. I'm back.
No,
He's looking at his taxes. He's going to have a heart attack.
Trust me, you have no idea. It's never pleasant, but some years it's worse than others.
Hang on 1 second.
Time to file for an extension.
That's what I'm in the middle of doing, is filing for the extension. But even to file for it, I have a new accounting firm that I'm working with. And so trying to fill them in on everything that's going on is where the complexity arises. In any event, are you going to be speaking at Printing United? Do you know?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I'll go.
Huh?
I don't think I'll even go.
You don't like Orlando?
Yeah, Orlando means nothing to me, but the Printing United is beginning to mean nothing to me.
I agree. I think in my case, I've never missed one. So I kind of do it out of habit. So I went to my first one in 77 and I've never missed one since.
I missed one.
It's just one of those things that just keeps going on. No particular reason. I am not in love with them. I think what they've done for the textile side is they've butchered us.
I don't want to spend $1,500 to go say I went.
I totally understand. I do. It's just, it's annoying because I go to it out of quote unquote loyalty, and I'm not sure where loyalty really lies. But we'll see. I haven't. I submitted to speak at the textile situation. I don't know if what they've heard or if Marshall has gotten back any information and who is and who isn't speaking, but we'll see.
That the last marketing meeting he explained it, and I know that Ray Weiss canceled the meeting next Thursday for the Academy, but I believe Marshall published or Ray. I think Ray might have published.
Oh, who the speakers are?
Yeah.
Yeah, I missed the last meeting. I haven't made a meeting in a while.
What other questions you got there, Charlie? What do you got going on?
Yeah. So show me. So you did my logo?
I did. I was gonna say, did you see that? It's got a.
Yeah.
Here, I'll send you a text of it. Sarah did an amazing job keeping your gradients. So I think it's awesome. I'm
Now, I just,
Use
all I
12
have to do is bring this over for you.
But no, I have too many irons and too many fires right now. So,
I do understand.
it was a great idea to have something to compensate for, during slow times. But when they're all hitting at the same time,
Yes.
there's not enough me, Debbie, Sarah.
So, what we never discussed was the different things that you do in your place. So obviously you do screen printing.
Mhm.
You do embroidery, you do laser engraving,
Correct.
and you do signs.
Yep. Why I have two 64-inch wide format printers. But yeah, we do all sorts, and I work with from schools to construction companies to every kind of a one-stop shop. And it's been challenging. It's been great when one's slow and the other one picks it up. But like I was just saying, when it's all going at the same time, it's a little chaos. There's no such thing as more time. This in 24 hours, I've had a few days where I've had to work 20 of them.
Yeah, well, you're young, you don't need that much sleep.
That's what I thought too, until after that shift.
Yeah. Listen, part of being in screen printing is potentially doing all-nighters once in a while.
Oh yeah.
Not in love
Really?
with it, but you have responsibilities in terms of getting out product, and so you do what you have to do in order to get it out the door.
Correct. And first and foremost, I mean that screen printing where it says screen printing and embroidery. Anybody asks, as far as I'm concerned, when they ask me, the screen printing and embroidery, those are my two big two. Everything else is just a plus that they can come in and get. So I try to explain to even my customers when they come in through that my focus and priorities are trying to be the screen printing side of it, then the embroidery side of it. And those two are pretty side by side. But anytime I get a chance where I can help the customer out on other media that we can print or do for them has it's turned out to be a blessing. So and it's brought a lot of new customers because it's always, can you do stickers? And oh yeah, you get them, they come in, they pick up the stickers. You do t-shirts, or vice versa. You guys do stickers? I thought you guys just did t-shirts.
Yeah.
So it is nice because it does give you more exposure. But it's still my company's pushes. I really try to push on the screen print side as much as possible because it's what I enjoy. It's what I wanted to do. Why we got started on this.
Yeah. Well, I'm with you on that, certainly. I mean, screen printing is certainly why I got into this. I think.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm not sure. Were you able to pull up Who's Who, Richard?
Yes, you're speaking.
I am?
Yes, you're speaking.
Okay.
So ask
I
us
guess that means
anything.
I'll be there.
Yes. So there's a panel. Ask us anything. Marshall and Alan Howe. You are number 2, screen printing special effects.
Yeah.
Then brand spot colors, powerful yet misunderstood. That's Jim Ruffle. Screen room redefined. Again, that's Marshall and Dave Dennings and Art Doby, et cetera. And last but not least, or color is a profit center, not a cost. That's Jim Raffle again. And last but not least, Kudre's talking about robots of the future.
Robots of the Future. Sounds exciting.
Well, that's me summing it up. That's not a proper title.
I understand.
So did Marshall cancel his stuff going on next week? Isn't it next week supposed to have that down in Phoenix?
Next week we'll all be in Phoenix for boot camp.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's a business boot camp, and they're not recording it in the same manner because everybody's expected they're going to share intimate details of their financial things, and so I believe that's what's up in air. I do not believe it's going to be recorded. Otherwise, people that belong to the Shirt Lab tribe, they can always attend later on, as they could with the other live events that he's had, like Austin last year when they did art separations, and the 30 people came, they brought their computer and they separated design with the supervisors right there. So they had 3 people lead them through a separation.
Yeah, my interest my interest on that for working with Marshall on that is I really wanted to go down because I guess this is more of the business side of it, trying to go through and
It's
dial
a
in.
financial, because you
And
got the
that's
profit first lady coming in. I've forgotten her name. But
Ellison,
yes. She made friends with Allie because Allie works with Mike Michalowicz. Allie is Mike Michalowicz's printer. And so she goes to all of his big events on the East Coast. And so they are closer than somebody like Mark Coudray, who was the #1 or the first profit first consultant, certified counselor, whatever you want to call him. He was the #1 in the world the first time they ever gave that award out. And he worked with Mike Michalowicz on Fix This Next.
excellent.
So
No,
there's
that's,
two people
I
now.
wish I'd have gotten to make it.
Are you following along with Coudray in his Profit First for Screen Printers Facebook?
No.
Okay, so keep that in mind.
And who is it?
It's Profit First for Screen Printers on Facebook. Mark Coudray moderates that. And of course, we advise that people should read Profit First, but I advise that you should read Fix This First. No, I'm sorry, Fix This Next first. Come on, you're right.
That's probably one of the biggest
That's
challenges.
That's me going outside the approved ideas, but there's a chapter in here, chapter 9, I think, which I can send you.
Oh,
You
yes.
see my phone number, send me a text with your email in it. And debt eradication. This chapter, I can remember exactly when I heard it when I was driving. I know exactly where I was, and it was like kismet. It was like that. If you get the idea of chapter 9, debt eradication, you're ready. I mean, it'll help you to be more enthused about doing Profit First, which is a method of separating separate bank accounts for isolating cash and understanding what your operating expenses are, but taking the profit out first. Where you immediately take out what you've decided is profit and you put in the profit thing and you don't touch it. Because otherwise, now you know how much money you've got left to run your business because you give the money to the stockholder. You're a stockholder in the company, and are you paying yourself? Those are ideas that are much better taught by people that are really into that world.
Okay. No, and that's one of the things. Coming from where I was at before, I did construction before. Charlie knows this. Coming out of construction, first, it's easy for you to, for me, it was easy to make money doing construction. I mean, you understand it. You got, minimal overhead. The labor is where all the money's at in construction. Changing that over, coming here, I can kind of bring it into the manual. But once I upgraded from working out of my basement into a shop, then you start building that overhead that starts killing you. And it's like, well, I could take that, I won't be paying myself. This first was the first mistake of stopping paying myself on it. And then once I got now into the automatic is trying to build up more marketing. And I've been working with Charlie's guy, Prem, on getting my website and marketing going on that more, just the fact that there's so much more and trying to go through and get to that next step so I can get back to where I need to be at, where I want to be at, why I'm in this as far as profit. So that's why I'm inquiring on that about Marshall's stuff there for Shirt Lab.
So I've got great respect for what Marshall's doing, and I've got great respect for Profit First. But for instance, if you're not familiar with the methodology of Profit First, you're going to go to, shall we say, an advanced class. You're going to spend thousands of dollars plus the airfare, plus the hotel's all picked up from, but you still have to pay to fly there. And if you don't know anything about Profit First, it's the shock of being thrown into the pool, and you'll be dizzy more than that. So yes, you'll miss this opportunity, but have you got $2,000 to invest in? You know what? I'm jumping in.
Excellent. And your book, the book you were just showing there, do you want to text me that what the name of that book was? I
If
just
you-
sent you over your text.
Right. Then I
So-
shall send you my scan of the 9th chapter to get
Perfect.
you started, because that's what that's what I want you to read first. And if you've studied that, marked it up, you print it out, and it's 10 pages or whatever it is, and you mark that up as homework from Richard, the teacher, and all of a sudden you break that up into sections. You go, it'll either give you an aha moment or it won't. But
Yeah.
to me, that's the core. Just like with other books like 2 Second Lean, my lean favorite book, it's this thick. And even there, I want people to start at page 77, because that's where the most important section is, in
Sure.
that you need to be continuously improving your business, not worrying about the schedule.
Correct. And so part of the reason also I'm bringing this up is a lot of the, if anybody's watching this, dials into Charlie's thing, because a lot of this stuff you're blind to when you come in, because when you come into the screen print, it's just, oh yeah, I get to print shirts. And, a lot of that time they're not thinking, I can make a couple bucks on a shirt, sell 1,000 shirts. And, there's a couple grand right there. Perfect. A lot of people aren't paying attention to all the extra pieces that are, adding and chipping away at that $2 a shirt you're making, quote unquote. So, we're ended up being, you're making 3 cents a shirt because of all the other expenses going on to it. They're not paying attention to it. And a lot of people are getting into it. Even in Long Beach, talking to some of the folks in Charlie's class, was just, keep your eyes open, get educated first. Don't try to play this game by catch up, get ahead.
So there's the hobby, then there's self-employed, and then there's having a business.
Correct.
Yeah, well, it's the business part that has always been the Achilles heel in this industry. Everybody comes in with stars in their eyes and they're going to print T-shirts. And they're going
Everybody
to
with
make a
20
lot of
grand
money.
can start a T-shirt company. Okay.
Yep.
There's a reason that you're starting out as t-shirt printing and not doing something else. So,
That was interesting. Gentlemen, I'm going to have to jump off today. Afraid I have the obligation to take care of, which I'm not
Yes.
excited about at all. But
yes.
I do
Explain
have-
what you're doing for the rest of the afternoon.
This afternoon is going to be a drinking afternoon, I think, but we'll see.
Not for a second.
I do have some interesting guys coming on in 2 weeks, May 6th, actually. Company called Relic, 2 young brothers out of New York, and they have a line of shirts and stuff. That might be a lot of fun to chat with.
Perfect.
In any event, Jim, thanks so much for being here. Richard, it's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you,
visiting.
Charlie.
Thank you, Richard.
And, always enjoy spending some time, which we never did when we were much younger, but we seem to have the time on our hands as we've gotten older. But in any event,
It's
always
on my
pleasure.
calendar. It's on my calendar. So I
Perfect.
plan around this.
May
I know
6th.
you're going to do it
May
with Jim
6th it
in 2
is.
weeks.
And Jim, I'll see you later this week. I'm going to bring my water bottle so I can get it engraved.
Correct. And you got to help me work through this first water base print we're going to push through, because
Yeah, we'll get
fun
through
for
it.
me.
Not a problem.
As dry as it is here.
Nope, we'll get through it. Not a big deal.
All right. Well, thank you, Charlie.
Gentlemen, thank you all. Really
Thank you, Richard.
appreciate it.